Hi, my name is Brian Brito. I am currently a manager at Amazon as an L4, so a starting manager. And I just wanted to do a little self introduction of who I am, why I decided to stream or just make content in general, and just a little self introduction of who I am and why I'm doing this. So, my journey really begins in college, my spiritual journey. In college, I moved up north to Merced. It's about 5 hours away from where I live. It's like I live like in Southern California, and Merced's kind of like the Central Valley. And I moved 5 hours away because it was the only school that accepted me. And University of California, Merced is the newest university of California. Um, I believe there's 10 in total, and it was the newest one, founded in I want to say 2009. It was when Michelle Obama, during the Obama administration. Well, I went up there up north, and basically I lived by myself for about 4 years. From 2015, I graduated May 2015. I graduated high school. 3 months later, I got accepted to that university, so I went. I took a chance. My parents pushed college. So I went, I took a chance and I wanted to make my parents proud. So in 2015, August, I drive up there with my parents, mainly my dad and my brother. They helped me drive up there up north. It was my first time driving long distance. It wasn't too bad, but at the moment I was a little scared. I barely got my driver's license too because I was barely 18, straight out of high school. So um, I go up there and I go to my first house. Didn't have that many connections up there. Just took a leap of faith, and with my family's help, I started my journey as a mechanical engineer. Actually, I was good at math and science. Originally, I wanted to do aerospace, and it's not until you get into the material that you know that it's really, really tough out there. Um, and I applaud people who are really, regardless of what degree you're going for, but they do say that the bachelor's of science is a little bit more tough. Math and science is a little bit more tough. Less people want to do it, and a little bit more demanding, and just more time in general that it takes. That's why, like for the engineering space, that's what I did. So I just applaud anyone going through it right now. And right now, I was looking for work, and the job market's pretty tough out there right now. With all the AI, you're probably you have a better chance of just making online content and throwing yourself out there while having another job. That's kind of what I'm doing right now. But back to the story in college before I get to this whole where I'm at right now and everything. So in college, 2015 August, it was before ChatGPT and everything. So you kind of, but we did have this thing. I didn't know in the beginning, but I guess through word of mouth, through what the other basically I remember being assigned a homework assignment for physics, I believe, and this guy named John, and his last name was Hannock, not the thing you're thinking about, but it's Han Knock, and I used to always call him Han C Ock, and then I just think it's funny. But in general, I asked him how he finished his homework so fast, and it was through this thing called Chegg. So if anyone does know, everything is online nowadays, and like you gotta adapt to the times and also reverse engineer the work, but also know what you're writing down. Not just writing verbatim, word for word. down, and you got to know what you're writing down, the steps that aren't explained, you know. And because basically I always tell, like, since I'm a manager, I always tell the associates how much time you put in is how much time you get out. So basically, the hard work, the struggle especially, like through pain, there's growth. And basically, um, there's a lot of cutting corners in college nowadays. I believe now it's even worse. It actually took me from 2015 to 2024 to graduate, so about 9 years. So I'm explaining the journey right now, but from 2015 to 2019 is when I was up north. In my is that 4 years? I want to say I was a senior when essentially my parents didn't really know what I was doing up there, and I was a good kid and everything, but I always had this yearn to be cool. And eventually when I went up there, I had my chance to be accepted, or like, kind of being peer pressure to do things. I eventually got in with the wrong crowd, and I never tried any form of narcotics or drugs before until my best friend at the time, he looked good on the outside, but on the inside it was all bad, and he was in very bad lifestyle that he lived. And the first thing I ever tried was something called Jack 3D. He introduced me into like working out and everything. But at the time, if anyone knows what Jack 3D is, it was a legal pre workout. It's probably one of the strongest pre workouts you ever try. And he got me addicted to the chemical that is banned is 1,3 dimethylene, something along those lines. That chemical is banned, and eventually I would be addicted to that and would consume that daily, and pair that with at the time marijuana. It was when I was 18. It was 2015, and I believe around like 2017 they changed the laws from 18 to 21 for smoking. So at the time I was doing it while basically I was underage. So eventually, those two are like my vices at the time. During As the semester's gone on, it progressively got worse, and eventually, I through my new house, I live in a frat house, but it wasn't really like everyday party kind of thing. A lot of them were engineers, so it was just a good vibe in general compared to my last house. Um, this was more towards my best friend at the time that introduced me into the lifestyle. And basically, we fast forward. I rush for a fraternity called Kappa Sigma, and during the semester of 2019, January through April, I was 2 semesters away from graduating mechanical engineering, and I wanted to experience everything that college had to offer. So I rush, and basically you do like community service. You rush and see if the organization's a great fit for you. Eventually, we get to spring break, which is the last week of March. So I want to say from March 23rd to April 1st is kind of when basically the spring break for marches, and eventually I go to Mexico, Rosarito, and I am Mexican, but I never been to Mexico, like as an adult. And going over there, I basically have a whole spiritual encounter because I was like, I don't know how you want to say it, but basically they would say hallucinating or seeing things in the spiritual. That's what I say. So I I could go more in depth into it, but I don't want to like go too in depth into it. But essentially during spring break, um, I don't going driving down from Merced to Mexico. I was driving my SUV that my dad gracefully let me borrow, and then I drive to Mexico, and then before crossing the border, something spiritual told me to throw away everything that I brought with me, and I threw away I threw away um what we call yay, and also marijuana that I threw away before crossing the border. Something spiritual told me to do it. During this whole time, I felt like I was being led spiritually. Um, during the I had no sexual activity during the week that I was there, and I end up just buying a Last Supper painting and going through such a spiritual journey that I could never deny it. And I I repented for basically all the actions that I did, and like I grew up Catholic, but I never really read the Bible, and um I was going through such a spiritual journey that I didn't want nothing to do with the fraternity because I believe that it goes against God's will in everything that they do, you know, all the initiations and everything. During the Rosarito, I was praying to a Last Supper painting, not the one behind me, the one that's in the kitchen over there. But I was just praying to it, and from the outside, it might look like I was going through it. Um, but I was going through such a spiritual journey that I basically the whole week I had no sexual activity. I drank a little bit. I was still not a what they call a brother yet for the fraternity, but I believe I was going so through it that eventually I landed in the hospital when I don't even know how I got back up to my house, my frat house. I think someone else was driving with me, but I remember I was in the driver's driving, So like, yeah, it's kind of getting flashbacks right now, but during that whole week, I was going through something so spiritual that eventually I wanted out. I didn't want I don't want to be in the fraternity or anything. I just wanted to be with my family. Because at the end of the day, you don't know what you have until you lose it. And I felt like maybe the frat wasn't for me, and it's just like not true relationship. And also, I was going through it with my best friend at the time, and I basically took 3 lines of yay, and then 1 line of used marijuana. and then I land in the hospital. I land in the hospital up there, up north, and still going through a spiritual journey, as they would call it. And I never really took any psychedelics. I guess they consider marijuana a the lightest form of psychedelics, the most, um, and I never tried any of the other psychedelics. But going back to what I was saying, I landed in the hospital 2019, April 1st, April Fool's Day. It was no joke that day. On my Instagram, I have photos of how I was in the hospital. I was a little lighter. I was very into fitness. My best friend at the time, not anymore, but at the time, got me into um, fitness because I always wanted to look good growing up. So that's something that I took advantage of while I was over there in college. And I landed in the hospital and still going through a spiritual journey. And eventually, my brother, who was with his girlfriend at the time, drives 5 hours from Southern California to Merced to come pick me up because I guess one of the people in the frat or my house in my frat house, people there were somehow found out through my phone, came in contact with my brother, the first one to know that I'm in the hospital, and I basically OD'd. Essentially, that's what I think. I haven't really like looked through the papers or anything, but that's essentially what happened. And my brother picks me up, and I'm still going through the spiritual journey, as I like to call it. And basically was seeing like what could be considered hell, but while still being on Earth. So I believe I didn't go into the go into like the afterlife yet, but I was basically going through a spiritual journey. Um, and they picked me up, and I'm kind of like unconscious, s- like let's say like 5% conscious or 10%, pushing it at 10%, but like 90% unconscious where I can't really respond. Um, I feel like I put my family through a lot, like so much so that I I just after 3 months I was like bedridden for like 3 months. Um, at this time we lived like in a ranch house, like in a ranch, and I was bedridden for 3 months, and I'll never. I felt like this time I dropped out because I didn't complete college yet. I felt like I would never get peace or like live it down if I didn't graduate. Like I let my whole family down. For all you who have dropped out, like I'm pretty sure you feel like that and like no hope and for all those people who dropped out, it's just so disheartening going through life knowing that you sacrificed so much to get there. I mean, I was having a lot of fun, you know, but I was smart enough. I had good memorization skills where I did what I could to pass. I only had like 2 semesters left, and engineers take 5 years to graduate, you know, so um, I had 2 semesters left, and I had to drop out because of the lifestyle that I lived, the choices I made, and that's part of growing up and just being a man. You gotta own up to your mistakes. So I I was bedridden for 3 months. I couldn't like really do anything. I was going through a spiritual journey, and eventually I recover and I try to get a job, try to get out the house, because I feel like depression is staying inside a confined space or like just home and just like not progressing in life, not striving towards something. So, um, 3 months, I I start off at a job, and I was looking for a job, and I mean the only place that really, I don't know how it came to be, but I applied for Amazon. And if anyone has been at Amazon knows, during this time it was around 2019, around like Thanksgiving. So I believe it was around peak is why they accepted me, because I believe I started around like Thanksgiving is when I started, and I just wanted to work, get out the house, and I applied to my Amazon. I got accepted right away. Just took a drug test and a cotton swab, and they accepted you right away. And fast forward April, and I'm still going through the spiritual journey here and there. There's like, I don't want, basically like little episodes that I have that was still recovering. Um, Pre-workout, try to let that go through the Lord and Savior now. Like I don't really crave it that much. Also, marijuana I don't crave anymore. But during that time in 2020, April, it's kind of like during COVID. uh, I kind of fall back and I had another spiritual journey, which lasted like 3 months or 2 months. And during all those times, like, I just thank my family for being there and the Lord and Savior, um, for being there. It was like during that spiritual journey that I started, like, seeking the Lord and Savior. I started seeking the higher power, but, I'm glad to have my brother who's very knowledgeable in the Bible to help me along that journey. But um, through the graces of the Lord and Savior, I recover. And I want to say, so 2019, April 1st is when I went to the hospital. I recovered 3 months later, which is April, May, June, July. So around July, I recover. Not fully, but enough to be functional. So then, then I go to 2022. I want to go. I appeal, or like I write my why I left kind of little like cover letter, or like little like letter to the UC. I was trying to transfer to a Cal State, but it was a little difficult from UC to Cal State and like the whole program and everything. So through thanks to the Lord and Savior, like, um I got accepted into Cal State Fullerton, but I didn't have the speech class. I forgot what it was. The speech class that you needed for it to be a like a prereq to graduate to transfer there. But it would have been way harder to transfer and like graduate with mechanical engineering there. So I thank the Lord and Savior that in 2022, around August, I got I appealed and I got accepted back into UC Merced. This time I go with my brother to like monitor me and like take care of me. And the Lord and Savior tested me again, where a month in, um I basically I had to take like medicine this whole time, and basically that's just the consequences of the actions that I took and the lifestyle that I lived. I In 2022, I basically go into another episode, spiritual journeys, kind of what I call it, where I go into that while I'm going for school again. and I have to go back home. Yeah, go back home for 1, 2, or 3 months again. So I collapsed like 3 times already, and then basically you're like bedridden. You're like not like fully bedridden. I say like every single time I was a little bit more conscious than before. It wasn't as bad as the first time in April 1st, 2019. But every time I do it, like I can't do anything else. And for those that ever have gone through it, um, it has to be a spiritual journey with the Lord and Savior. It's like kind of what I come to the conclusion of. But 2022, I go back home during the winter, December, January, or it was like December, October. I I collapsed and like bedridden, not bedridden, but functioning like maybe 20% and 80% unconscious kind of thing. I recover, and then I don't remember exactly what happened, but I appeal again in 2023 August, and I'm lucky to have my friend who was doing a PhD at the time. Kind of made it easy for me to find housing up there, up north, with my other brother, and I go up there. My other brother's still living out there, I believe, and through the through the through through trial and error, hardship, and everything, the Lord and Savior brings you down to the floor and knocks you down so he could see who you go to. So you could so he could see like he has all these hardships in your life and like all these obstacles and everything because he wants to see you change. He wants to see you basically come to the light and like really seek him. Under during these 5 years, 2019 to when I graduate 2024, um, I was basically like slowly coming to the journey of the Lord and Savior. Started reading the Word, started like watching movies, started just enveloping myself into Him. Because without Him, I wouldn't be alive and like functioning and like you could be like a vegetable, or like just bedridden for the rest of your life and be a burden to your family and have them take care of you. And I'm just thankful to be alive, and that's what's kind of carried me through my job as a manager and everything. But a little bit back into I go back 2023 fall, which is around August to like December, and this time I I take my medicine because I don't want to like have another episode and like I failed my family enough, and I just want to close this door in my life. And through the grace of God, I graduate in 2024 of May in mechanical engineering. 2024 of May. So it took me about a decade to graduate, about 10 years, decade. So I always tell people like where there's a will, there's a way, and I'm thankful that the Lord and Savior helped me basically graduate. But it was not easy. Like when I went back there, I had like flashbacks and like the whole spiritual journey and everything, and like um to this day I still have like sometimes episodes or like spiritual journeys. So I just gotta be, I always tell the associates take care of your health. Work is always gonna be there. So health is number one. If you don't have health, you don't have peace. If you don't have peace, you know, you're always you're always in chaos. So I graduated 2024 May, and during that whole 6 months, I was searching for a job, and it was pretty tough finding an engineering job. I got a couple interviews, but they all wanted basically experience, even the entry level jobs. So because I worked as a tier one in Amazon as a warehouse worker, I decided to apply as area manager. I just wanted a job in general, and I just wanted to provide for my family and basically just gain experience. And I applied as an area manager. They had this university program. I encourage all college students to apply for it. It's just a if you not if it's a hard if you have a hard time finding a place to work at. And I apply and I go through the interview process. It was like 3 hours, three different interviewers, and I got accepted. And my top location, I got a manager job there. They fly you out to Seattle, their headquarters in Washington, for a week to like train you, introduce you, and like it's like a whole like 8 week program where they train you. And I currently work there as a manager, and um, I had I had another episode while I was working, like when I first got hired, and the Lord and Savior says that um, seek me, seek Him. Like, am I working for myself? Am I working to for the Lord and Savior? Like, I feel like a lot of the times I work and like since it's such a demanding job, like I work like 12 hours, like 12 hours a day, including lunch. So maybe like 11 hours and a half and 11 hours. 11 hours minimum. And I I basically I've worked there and I've grown a lot. I've been there since January of 2025. I've been That's when I got hired. I've been I've been growing as a leader. It's a great experience and like great exposure to corporate America. And I'm just, you don't know what you have until you lose it. Regardless of what I'm going through at my job or whatever job you have, there's always pros and cons wherever you go. So just be content where you're at in life, you know? So I'm just glad to have a job. I'm just glad that I'm not in in the market. And like right now I'm just trying to be an engineer for Amazon. That's kind of my goal right now. But the place that I applied to is kind of far from here. It's like an hour and a half. So I would have to relocate and everything. But I want to tie all this back to how I was. I'm still going through it. I'm still taking medication till this day. And essentially, I I told the associates. Let's go back to like why I started this whole channel and like this whole thing is when I first got there last year. I was telling the associates like it doesn't matter what salary job you have, you will never make it really financially in life. So I wanted to create something and kind of own it and kind of the build a business or build a channel or like have something that I own and like work towards and like kind of grow. I always had it in the back of my mind, but this is me taking like the official first step in me showing the associates through myself being a living example that where there's a will, there's a way. Everyone has a story, everyone has something great in them. And this is why I started this channel. This is why I'm doing the self introduction to inspire, to grow together. I want everyone to be at a place now because I feel like we live in scary times. Everything's in the palm of your hands. And right now, the number one sin I'm dealing with is lust. You know, that's kind of like the number one thing I'm dealing with right now. Regardless of what you see, regardless um of what you see on the outside, everyone's going through something, and I want to also grow my relationship with the Lord and Savior. Number one, I believe that's the most important thing in life, and He's called upon me to be a leading example for those that are going through something right now. Like I said, depression is a real thing, and